I'm painting this pink hydrangea today. It really is a big job. Look at all those petals. How on earth am I going to be able to paint them all? But what has attracted me to this picture is the sun and the shadow are so well defined. There's absolutely no question as to where the sun's coming from. It's coming from up here. It's always kind of good to figure that out before you start, because it sort of simplifies things for you. Now I am starting to paint, and I've already painted two little spots right here and right here. A problem is that this little area right here is white really, but it's in shadow too, but you can still tell that it's lighter, so I've got to figure out how to paint that so that it looks correct. So let's see, what can I do about that. I'm going to take my Cheap Joe's Dragon's Tongue brush and wet this area just a little bit. Now I'm not going over it with the dark shadow color that I went over the rest of it, so I'm just going to go over it lightly. That doesn't seem quite right yet. I've already painted the center green, so I'm going to keep going until I'm satisfied with the depth of the shadow and still maintaining the white identity under there. I'm going to get a little bit of cobalt blue and mix it with my bright violet color that I'm using. See how that works. It's not enough. I think that I'm going to let that sit for a while. I'm not going to go back to that. But I want to examine my shadows carefully. For example, up here, this shadow appears to me to have a lot of blue in it. I'm going to wet that one, if I can find it. Let me see, which one is it. I believe it's this one. I'm just going to wet that petal. The water's not quite clear because it's still got some color in it. But that's okay, because it's the color I'm working with anyway. And the shadow comes around down like this, and a little bit right here. A little bit right here. Okay, so I have noticed that it's a little bit blue. So I'm going to go to my Berlin blue just to see what happens. Berlin blue is a beautiful, beautiful color from my Mary blue. I love it. So I'm just going to touch that in, leaving that light edge on the top. I'm just touching this in where I have already put water. And letting it sort of, paint follows water when we're doing watercolors. So now that is going to be my little blue undertone, but I still see lavender there too, so I'm going to go back over it with some bright violet. But I'm not going to completely cover up the blue. Now, I'm just going to leave that for a few minutes and work somewhere else. I just love these clearly defined shadows. They are the very thing that turns me on. Let's get this area right here. Let's wet it. And we don't really care at this point that the brush still has a little bit of pigment on it, because it's the color we're probably going to use anyway. Now that shadow goes out this way and then comes back this way, so it's all kind of connected. It crosses over to another blossom. So I'm going to, again, I think I'm going to use this Berlin blue, especially, it looks like I'm seeing it up here a lot, right up at the edge. Perhaps that's turning over a little bit toward the sky, and it's picking up the sky color. This could be. And I think that I'm going to go ahead and put this blue all the way down into these other parts of the shadow, but not a lot, just a little bit. Then go back to my bright violet again while it's still wet, and start putting that in and let it all go blend together. It's getting dry a little bit, so it's not really going. But that is really okay, because these petals have got a sort of a texture to them anyway. Notice again I'm leaving that middle part for later, even though it too is in shadow. It's going to have to be lighter than the rest of the shadow. Shadows are also, they're colored by what they're falling upon. What are they falling upon? If they're falling on something that's already a pink, it'll be a deeper pink. If it's falling on something that's white, it won't be pink. Or as pink. Okay. I can keep working with this while it's wet like this. I don't have to stop and wait for it to dry. I can, if I want to deepen it, I can just go ahead and do it now, because a lot of people wouldn't do that. They'd let it dry, then they'd go back and do it. But I'm just a maverick, I guess. I don't always do it the way it's been done and been done and been done. I do it my way. Now here's a shadow that is truly deep, and it's got some parts to it that I didn't draw, so I'm going to create those parts right now. I see them. That is really a deep. I'm going into my red violet and mixing that up with my other colors that I already have going here. And I'm going to go ahead and start putting that in. It's going to be a lot deeper, a lot darker than the rest of it. I think I put enough water in there. So, if you don't have enough water in there, you get some more water on the brush. But yes, I see what's happening here. I'm going to have to let that dry and come back to it later. And you just keep examining your painting for, where in the world am I? Okay, I think I'm right here. And I think that's right here. So here, I'm going to wet that area. Again, I've got pigment on the brush, but anyway, you can see me wetting it if it's got pigment on the brush. And right now, it just doesn't really matter, because these are the colors we're working with. Just wet it. And I think I'm going to stop it right there.